I had a great show prep for you guys, and then I had a major technology issue, and now I'm fucked, and I can't do the show in the studio, so here I am delivering a semi-show from my office. So there's a big story that didn't really make waves, and I'm sort of amazed by that. It was only Axios who reported on this, and then CNN reported on it, and nobody else touched it. But this is huge news, and not for the reason that they're saying. So Jonathan Swan of Axios told CNN that President Trump, after he lost to Biden, he sent a memo off the books to his generals to remove troops from Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Germany, and Africa in his final weeks in office. So he was saying remove all of them from all of these places. Now, the way the media is reporting it is, oh my God, Donald Trump is insane. Look at what he did. This is crazy. He went to war with his generals. And thankfully, his generals pushed back and made sure that we didn't withdraw from all these places. That's the way it's being reported. It's being reported as another Donald Trump is a psycho stories. That is not at all the real story. The real story is the commander-in-chief of the U.S. military said, let's bring the troops home. By the way, that's what the overwhelming majority of the American people want. And he was vetoed by people who don't have veto power over him. We don't live in a country where you have the generals calling all the shots. We have civilian control of the military. That's the whole point of having the U.S. president be the commander-in-chief. It's so that you have a democratic process, and it's supposed to be some semblance of democracy and the people choosing what's best to do with our military. And I'm astonished that this story didn't make more waves, wasn't reported on everywhere, and definitely astonished that nobody seems to be taking the position that I'm taking right now, which is Trump. This would have been the best thing that Donald Trump did. In fact, I hope Joe Biden does this. I hope he does. But the other aspect of the story is, on top of basically having a system where the generals can override the president, which is not the way it's supposed to work. So we're not functioning as we're supposed to. Also, Trump is really a cuck, man. And I've said this to you guys before, but this is all the evidence I need. He sent the order to withdraw troops from Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Germany, and Africa. And the generals just overrode him. And effectively, he was like, okay, you're right. I guess we're not going to go ahead and do that, even though I want to do that, and even though that's what the American people want. That is the saddest thing I've ever heard in my life. So he didn't even really have control of his own government at any step of the way. And I mean, there's a number of angles to this story that are incredibly disturbing. Probably the most disturbing part is that the generals could just willy-nilly override the commander-in-chief. But also that he's the most colossal cuck of all time and just doesn't get done what he says he wants done. But then also, how broken is our media system that only a few outlets covered this, and the outlets that did cover this took the angle of, isn't Trump insane? He wanted to bring the troops home. Ridiculous. I'll never understand how the de facto default perspective of apparently everybody in polite society, all of the elites, all agree across the board. Well, obviously, we're supposed to be neoconservative in our foreign policy outlook, and obviously, we're supposed to be the world policemen and imperialists, and everywhere at once. I mean, we live in a country where we can't even get clean water in Flint, Michigan. We live in a country where our infrastructure is falling apart. It gets a grade of C, according to the most recent report. We have tens of millions of people without health insurance. And everybody just agrees casually, all the people with power agree, well, yeah, deploy the troops everywhere and keep them there, and we don't even have to provide a justification. So that's the thing that's amazing. They don't even make an argument as to why it's a good thing to keep troops in Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Germany, and Africa. They don't even provide an argument. They just assume that you agree and everybody agrees, well, obviously this is the right thing to do, and Trump's insane for wanting to reverse that. He's not insane. In fact, he's correct. This would have been the best thing he ever did. But he didn't follow through because he is a cuck. And I'm sorry, man, our military is out of control. The generals are out of control. They are not allowed to act on their own and make their own decisions. They have a boss, and that boss is the President of the United States of America. And for them to override that, that is just terrifying. Because then, I guess the takeaway is, perhaps if any president calls for withdrawing from these places, they would override it. So we are forced to permanently spend our tax money and be deployed in all these places. We are forced to do that. We are forced to put young American men and women in harm's way for Kabul and Kandahar. This is crazy, man. This is crazy. We are so far away from any semblance of reason and rationality and an intelligent foreign policy. And I can't believe this story didn't, make a bigger splash. Honestly, I think this is one of the biggest stories of the Trump era, and it was barely a blip. And again, everybody who's talking about it is just going with the angle of like, isn't Trump so stupid? He wanted to bring Americans home instead of having us deployed everywhere around the world for no fucking reason forever. Idiot. Oh, what are we going to do, guys? What are we going to do? I just hope everybody on the left is principled about this and you realize that it doesn't matter if Trump does it if it's a good thing. My dad used to have a saying, even a blind squirrel finds an acorn every now and then. That's what this is. Trump can be wrong about 95% of stuff, but if 5% of the time he happens to stumble on the right thing, for fuck's sake, argue for that thing. Don't abandon a principled position because, the big orange meanie happened to take the same position. So anyway, his story's gonna haunt me. It's gonna haunt me. It makes you feel like no matter what, we will always be all around the world despite the consequences. Even if it gets our people killed, even if we're wasting trillions of our tax dollars, even if we're creating a backlash effect, blowback as the CIA calls it, that, now we're a bigger target because of all of our meddling. The facts don't matter. They've decided we're going to be everywhere at once and everything else be damned. So it's a terrifying story, and I wish I had a positive thing to say at the end of this, but I don't.